I decided to look deeper into what I was putting out in the first video on hamper here, the previous video. There's a lot of interesting stuff here actually. In fact, during that video I mentioned the door, the stone door. I said that I would try and find it. Well, I did try finding it, and I checked about 40 videos, scanning through about 40 videos. You can imagine how long that took, and I still couldn't come across it. So I'm having to speak on it here at the end, and what the megalithic community always put out as the CNC machine. It's also somewhere around Hampi. I will cover that, but I will do it at the end of this video for those that don't want to listen to it again. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff in this video that I've come across, which will further the points that I put out. So obviously the flooding and volcanic ash event, you see all this really hard surfacing that, because I think it looks like to me anyway that all these structures that are standing now are bits and pieces that they've dug up, and then they've just built it on this solidified surface, which will have been like a slurry mixture and then hardened over time. Like I said, you wouldn't be building around these huge rubble piles because at some point they would collapse and end up crushing, what you'd built and killing people. So the video and its title is about these huge rubble piles, but it's not really on that. So this area here, because it's well known as a rock cut structure, right? And it isn't. There are areas which are rock cut, clearly, just like anything today. I'd say most of that has been done in very recently, but areas are just kind of wooden framings that have got some kind of smearing into it, and I'm going to prove that without any doubt whatsoever. Yeah, but that doesn't take away from how stunning and advanced this site is. It's just how we do it today. Yeah, a site isn't advanced just because it's got rock cut pieces all over the place. It's backward to me, is that. Well, there is no need to be building things from huge pieces of rock, yeah, when you can do it like this and get the same effect. In fact, it would even last longer because rock just naturally cracks. You can't even cut big enough pieces away. It's got hairline cracks running all the way through it. And some of you could argue that this temple, this building here, is extremely recent, and I could agree with you, but it could also be restored. But it doesn't matter because what comes up next is exactly the same thing. Yeah, it's lattice and groove, and then they've got plaster or something, whatever they use to put over it. Now these reliefs here, if you look around the edges, there's about 3 or 4 here, just to prove my point. You will see a wooden framework that's around it, and then you'll have like I don't know, 2mm boarding in the middle, and then you can smear something over it, plaster, whatever, and then print out your relief. Yeah, it's not huge pieces of rock carved away. Yeah, for one thing, you need to replace it time and time again as it gets weathered or vandalized. Some areas being cut stone, because I was pointing out, I've got more examples here. One from the last video, how much of it looks like petrified, mineralized wood. But even if it's cut away from the remnants of the giant trees, it's still the same thing, isn't it? Now, these, what I'm pointing out here, you see the arches that's underneath. These have been transported from somewhere else. They're built in the exact same way as these today, and they are upside down, so they have been transported and rebuilt from somewhere else because they're upside down for the reason that it helps support the material, the mud that you put in between the huge planks of wood. Anyway, in terms of the supposed lathe that the entire megalithic community, even to this day, point out. This is it here. And well, it's not a lathe, is it? I don't know what it is. It could have even been moved there, I don't know, 50 years ago. It's certainly not a lathe. The point towards the item that's in the middle at the bottom, I showed how it seemed to be a pot. The bump in the middle could just be where it snapped. The stand itself has just snapped. It's upside down. Say it's a lathe because it's got perfect circular rings running around it, but they all join up on each other, okay? But they circle inwards. It is indeed ceramic, and because I say that these circles that run around it, they run inwards all the way to the center like a record player, right? But that could have easily have been done in the same way that we make pots today on the holes with a bar, and then you'd have like a plate at the bottom that you'd spin with your feet. This one's likely very simple, but it is just to produce pots, all right? It's not a CNC machine, I don't care what they say. Finally, this is the supposed stone door, and the main thing here was two things, is the cracking that runs across both of these doors. Now, if this was indeed stone, it would have collapsed a long time ago. They wouldn't have this out on display and kids running around touching it, right? Okay, 99% of doors are made out of wood because it's lighter and durable to bend, and it's got something over it. Could have been done from the volcanic ash and flooding that I speak about, the soup that just covered everything and helped calcify. So the cracking explains that. In fact, I'll try and zoom in and you can actually see something under it. The next thing is the supposed lock-in device. Now, because I proposed that it would be something similar to a piece of metal that'd have a curl on the end of it, and then you could jam it into it, okay, to stop people breaking the door down to lock it. And because when they say this is a stone door, if somebody were to bash it with a ram, it'd just smash through in about 2 hits. So it would have to be wood. The springs that I've circled in red, to me, they're exactly the same as suspension springs, and you would have 3 just to support it, to make it stronger. There wouldn't be that much tension there because there's 3 lined up at the side of each other, but it would certainly stop anybody from breaking it down. But that's all this is to me. You can make it your own mind, people.